Coming up on Today in Florida.
A mess of metal following a fatal crash, the collision leaving several injured, including a young child. We are live. Unrest in Egypt, political protests spilling over, Americans told to evacuate, and now all eyes are on the country in crisis. An SOS answered, a local sailor's mission accomplished. Just one station with the story. A couple taking the big step.
My sister had the crazy idea because we run so much, and we just decided, why not?
Now they're redefining long-distance relationship.
And the answer to your question, the actor, goes to the cast of The King's Speech.
Plus, it's good to be the king. The King's Speech making its case for an Oscar. Who else had a strong showing at the SAG Awards? If you can't see, the ways to get around are extremely limited. Perhaps a cane, or in some cases, a dog can help. Driving was out of the question until Mark Riccobano drove a special SUV in Daytona Beach over the weekend. You see, Mark's been blind since he was 5, and for the first time ever, a blind person independently drove a vehicle.
You can't imagine what a step forward this is for the blind, and innovation and really gaining independence and a new vision from the rest of the sighted community.
For Barb Wenger, this was a special moment. Her daughter worked on this project for the past 3 years at Virginia Tech University.
It is just phenomenal what these kids have come up with. It's just amazing.
This SUV is outfitted with 3 laser range finding sensors which pass information to the driver's hands and seat. He made the trip around the 1.5-mile road course at Daytona International Speedway with the support of hundreds of vision-impaired fans sitting in the bleachers. Could we one day see a vision-impaired driver win the race here at Daytona?
Maybe, I could see that too.
Well, that may be a giant leap from what happened at Daytona, but a drive along a side road is one step closer thanks to this very important one lap.
While we're probably not quite ready for I-4 or I-95, I'm told that Mark Riccobano drove faster than many of the traffic jams that do exist from time to time on those highways.
The driver was selected to drive the modified Ford Escape Hybrid by the National Federation of the Blind. In the Newsplex, I'm Christine Cruz, 7 News.
Florida Highway Patrol says witnesses tell them this black Chevy Camaro was speeding up I-95 North just after 9 o'clock Monday night, and it wouldn't come to a stop until it collided with this car.
Troopers arrived to find a black Chevy Camaro and a green Toyota, apparently involved in a rear-end accident.
Investigators say the speeding Chevy slammed right into the Toyota just south of the 135th Street exit. Inside that Toyota, a mother and her 2 daughters, ages 3 and 16. The impact so severe, the woman's car burst into flames. She and her children stuck inside. Fire rescue and onlookers rushed to pull the mother and her children out of the burning car. They were all transported to Jackson Memorial Hospital, but the woman's 3-year-old daughter later died.
Coming up on Today in Florida.
A young girl killed in a fiery crash. The remaining passengers rushed to the hospital. An investigation is underway, and we are live.
Shocking details about the man who murdered 2 Miami-Dade officers. Police called to his home days before the shooting.
They were aware that he was here. They came right after he walked down the street.
Just one station with his family's words of warning.
A call for change. Egyptians asking 1 million people to march for peace.
People of America, you have the right to choose your presidents. We need to have it once in our life. Once in our life, I want to choose my president.
This morning, hundreds more Americans are expected to evacuate the country in crisis.
Another massive snowstorm crippling parts of the country. The weather only expected to get worse for hundreds of millions of Americans.
Plus, her insurance paid the doctors. Now doctors want more dollars.
They did accept money. Whether that's enough or not, take it up with my insurance company. That's why I have insurance.
Hoping to make sense of it all, she called Help Me Howard with Patrick Frazier.
More than 250,000 people taking to Cairo's main square Tuesday, short of the million called for by protesters, but point taken.
I'm here to say to Hosni Mubarak, he must leave. He should be out.
The crowds determined but peaceful, this the 8th day in Egypt's civil unrest and the largest protest so far. Their scorn centered on President Hosni Mubarak. Mubarak has run the country for 30 years and has shown no sign of leaving. Mohammed al-Baradei is the leading opposition figure.
It might be even bigger on Friday if things does not move. I think the #1 priority for the people in the street everywhere right now is for Mr. Mubarak to get a dignified exit.
President Obama being briefed daily on the situation. The White House has been non-committal on Mubarak, once seen as an ally. Senator Bill Nelson saying Mubarak must go.
Why do you believe that he must go?
Because the people are now demanding it. I think he ought to turn over the government to his vice president.
Meantime, the chaos continues for tourists and foreigners trying to get out. Cairo's main airport packed, the State Department having to intervene. One South Florida student telling us it took her days to get out.
I have seen the incredible strength and resilience of the Egyptian people who have risen up to demand a legitimate government.
It is afternoon in Cairo and still no peace in the streets. This was the scene yesterday as pro-government supporters clashed with demonstrators calling for President Hosni Mubarak to step down. Ambulances entering Liberation Square this morning, carrying away the injured and the dead. The sound of automatic gunfire could be heard throughout the night amidst the intermittent blasts of homemade firebombs. Egypt's army finally beginning to step in after watching the day's violence from the sidelines. Soldiers firing water cannons at protesters in an attempt to quell the violence. Demonstrators on both sides choking as tear gas engulfed the crowd. Before the sun went down, however, there was a brief moment of hope when the melee came to a sudden and unexpected stop. The two camps coming together.
Coming up on Today in Florida.
A police-involved shooting turns fatal. An officer injured in the crossfire. 7 is on the scene.
Egypt's president announcing his intentions. Opponents say it's not enough.
We're witnessing a tremendous moment in history, and I think that as Americans we should be keeping a close eye on this, and we should be really proud of the Egyptian people.
Now a South Florida student sharing her experience inside the country in crisis.
Americans seeing red, skies painted white, and travelers left with the blues. Winter weather cutting a stripe across the country and making residents see stars.
If at first you don't succeed, a thief learning the hard way to always have an exit strategy.
Plus, American Idol looking for the next Lone Star in Texas, and we are saddling up for a preview.
Coming up on Today in Florida.
An important morning in Egypt. Thousands demanding their president step down today. The latest on this country in crisis.
A deadly night in southwest Miami-Dade. A multi-car collision claims one life and leaves several others injured. 7 is on the scene.
A man with a mission. The husband of injured Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords making a big announcement on his final trip to space.
It's the end of the line for a train-riding reptile, and 7 News is there for the full-scale reunion.
Plus, world heroes honored South Florida style, and the Chilean miners certainly cashing in.
Soldiers standing at attention, a family mourning the loss of an American hero, Frank Florzak Jr., saying their final goodbye at the South Florida National Cemetery in Lake Worth.
And Lord, I commend my father's soul to you and his spirit, Lord.
While others celebrate this Independence Day holiday with fireworks, Robert Florzak and his family celebrate the life of a man they say lived the fight for freedom during World War II. He made a life-changing decision after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941.
On Monday, December 8th, my father went down to the Memphis Naval Air Station to join the Naval Air Corps.
But he didn't have 20/20 vision and instead joined the U.S. Army Air Force. A skilled electrician and lineman, Florzak was stationed in the Pacific Islands.
For 2 nights, the skies were filled with Japanese bombers, then paratroopers, a day of killing, and then a night of American bombers and paratroopers.
His time in the Pacific Islands leaving lasting impressions on his children and grandchildren.
I remember when my kids were little, especially Benjamin. We had a rifle in the house and he was showing him how to use the rifle and started telling him about war stories.
Just one that always makes me laugh is when they were telling me about when they were training, they used broomsticks down on Miami Beach instead of rifles.
A laugh, remembering his grandfather, a man the family says was often mistaken for Billy Graham.
I can remember being in Burdines while Billy Graham was in town. A woman walks up to my dad and starts going on about how blessed she was to meet the great Dr. Graham. My dad simply said, "Bless you, my child."
The family says Florzak kept enthusiasm for life and for his fellow soldiers.
He was sending care packages in Desert Storm.
I can remember my dad being in his big Mercedes and picking up every soldier that hitchhiked along the road.
And the Florzaks hope everyone enjoys their Independence Day holiday with more than just barbecues and sparklers, but a true understanding for what veterans like Frank Florzak Jr. did for this country. Florzak now joins more than 6,000 others buried at the South Florida National Cemetery. It is the 5th national cemetery built in the Sunshine State. In the Plex, I'm Reed Lamberty, 7 News.
A new look at one of South Florida's oldest neighborhoods. A group of filmmakers making a documentary hoping to shine a light on the community of Overtown.
One of the most important things, I think, is not only to learn about the rich musical history that Overtown had, but also the problems that Miami faced as a city as a whole with segregation.
The team looking to show a very different side of Overtown, one of thriving businesses and rich musical history. The very people who helped shape the community joining in on the effort, reminding people that Overtown once had a national reputation as the place to see and be seen.
It's amazing. It's amazing that Overtown was a very vibrant and a wonderful place to be and to visit. It was well known throughout the country.
So well known, in fact, world famous entertainers like Billie Holiday, Nat King Cole, and Ella Fitzgerald came to South Florida just to play in Overtown.
It was really moving over there. Everybody went over there, especially for entertainment. Then they put I-95, which separated a whole lot of things and moved out a lot of hotels and clubs.
And that, filmmakers say, is where the transformation into the Overtown we know today began. Leadership Miami and other community activists hoping this film will impact the future of Overtown by documenting its past.
It can come back and become even better than what it was. But that's going to be a tall task, because what it was unique, and what it was a great place to live and work.
These filmmakers hope to get the documentary in classrooms across South Florida, and they hope to educate people about the rich history right here in this community. Reporting in Overtown, Renee Marsh, 7 News.